This is my video 75. My desire to write poems just, I don't know, stopped for the moment, and that's a good sign, because when I wrote these translations or poems and I have this inspiration to do this, I can't do anything else. My brain just produce new lines or translations. Yeah, and it's really hard to do anything which is not so impressive like this stuff. I can compare this with the experience when I watched Fairy Tale, the arc about Phantom Guild, when this Phantom Guild castle marched towards the Fairy Tale building, and then this Robo Castle shot several magical shots in the Fairy Tale house, in the Fairy Tale building. Yeah, Erza defended one of the strikes, but finally some black creature, black orb with the two big arms just destroyed the building, and not so successfully defeated Gadriel, Iron Dragon Slayer, and then what? Yeah, Makarov himself came, because Mistigan collected all his energy and returned it to Makarov, and Makarov defeated the master of the Phantom Guild. So this arc was about 10, maybe 20 episodes, and I just couldn't stop watching them. I paused videos, then I did some routines as fast as I could, and then I returned to these videos. Somehow the same I feel when I have the inspiration about translating the poems, or when I wrote these two poems. Of course, I have my original small poems, which consist of 4 lines, and it's really easy to write them, because they are more random, like some random ideas combined together into short poem. And I started several quite long poems, but I have now this unstoppable inspiration, desire to write them. So I have some parts of them, and right now I stopped, and that's a good sign, because I can concentrate on doing the stuff like learning new words. Right now I'm going through all the words in Popova-Robotin dictionary, which contains about 5,000 words, and I read aloud each of them, and I write down the words that are unusual for me, because I never met them before, or because I know the word and I heard it lots of times, but I never pronounced it correctly according to the translation which is given in this dictionary. This is a necessary thing, but it is quite boring and monotonous and tedious, because I need to read aloud this individual words without which are not connected to each other, and I need to be quite concentrated on checking my own pronunciation to the transcription that is given next to this word. And I stopped doing shadowing of the dialogues because it's really not interesting, but it gives some experience of understanding, of parsing the English speech, because I can understand from 50 to 75% of the speech. Sometimes I just can't recognize the words that I know. Sometimes I can't recognize the words that I don't know. Anyway, this is not very interesting task. That's why if it compete against the writing poems when I have my inspiration feature on, then doing this routine with English really fails. And of course I need to do some routine stuff about the house, and that's really boring too. So right now my inspiration about writing poems stopped, and I can do the stuff that I wanted to do, but I couldn't really force myself to do this stuff, especially when I had this inspiration. And right now I'm going to read aloud my first poem about Red Riding Hood, just because they are so big. I think I will read them in the beginning of each video for some time, just to get the feeling of this poem, because when I did my translations, I reread some of them several times, and they had only 5-6 these small verses, but here about 20 verses, and to get the same hold of these poems, I need to read them many times. Anyway, let's go with the Red Riding Hood. There was a cottage in the woods in which the girl Red Riding Hood, together with her mother, lived. At least that's how it is believed. One day her mother baked the cakes and told the girl in red to take some extra cakes to her grandmom residing on the distant farm. What secrets that old hag possessed to live secluded from the rest of her beloved relatives is all beyond our expertise. Red Riding Hood knew all the woods because she'd spent her childhood tormenting animals and birds, discovering the ways to hurt without leaving any wounds, but shifting all the creatures' moods, so that at once they tried to choke themselves as she went for a walk. So it was really strange when someone wiggled in the range of 10 kilometers around her route towards her grandma's grounds. Perhaps he was a refugee, a lonely wolf on the BLG, who didn't understand the rules. He thought that he would show these fools how they should treat the little girl. He was a stranger after all. First he collected the intel, he forced the little girl to tell what was the purpose of her walk, he showed his teeth, it made her talk, and then he rushed towards the farm. Of course he didn't mean to harm the pigs or cows, the geese or hens. He didn't want to break the fence, he aimed to take the grandma's role. First he would swallow that hag whole, and then he'd lie down in her bed and hide his body but his head beneath the very cozy quilt. This way he wouldn't move until Red Riding Hood came to the house and checked his eyes, ears, and his mouth, and he would grab the girl at once. She'd fill his stomach for a month. And he was still lost in thoughts when he arrived to the threshold, so lost in thoughts, he never saw what that far farm was famous for. He missed the skulls on the stockade and the wallpapers which were made of all the types, of all the hides, of those who could howl, roar, or bite. He rushed inside, prepared to grab, when he got stuck in some bear trap. Then the enormous heavy stout fell on his head and he passed out. He came to himself in the bed as he'd imagined all of that, but for some reason he was tied up to the bed from all his sides. In front of him the grandma stood. She wore the apron and some crude large kitchen knife was in her hand. The wolf began to understand why no one tried his plan before, when he observed that all his 4 paws, which he couldn't feel at all, were nailed to the distant wall. Red Riding Hood stood with the drill in her right hand. She tried to kneel to his left side and put the bit between his ribs where it would fit. When she pierced one of his 2 lungs, she winked at him and showed his tongue, and then she made more orifices. She pierced his stomach, and the hisses came from his mouth. She drilled the spleen, intestines, kidneys, and his chin, another lung, his eyes and liver. The wolfie shook like from the fever, and finally she pierced his heart. There were the fountains of the blood. They shot around in all directions. They reached all spots without exceptions. The walls, the ceilings and the floor, the bed, the windows and the door, they all were overlaid with blood as if there was the bloody flood. The little girl was smeared with it, her face and hands, her legs and feet. The only thing that was the same was her Red Riding Hood. Her name derived from that Red Riding suit, but only several people knew. At first her suit was very cool. It was as white as cotton wool, but with each kill that she had, made, her costume got the stains of red, and in the end it had imbibed the blood of all those ones who died. Okay, I spotted one particular moment when, nailed up onto, okay, nailed, I need to change this to nailed onto, because as usually I got used to pronounce nailed, for example, as 2 sounds, nailed, ailed, but this is one sound, a, like a, but a. This is why when I use it in the poem, it makes only 1 syllable, and in this particular example I pronounced it as 2 syllables, so that's why I need to add another syllable to the prepositions that goes after this verb. Okay, anyway, I read it. Yes, the poem is quite cool. Anyway, even though I wrote it myself, and when I read it, it looks quite cool, because again, I wrote it and I had this inspiration state of mind when I didn't really understand what I was writing, but the ideas go out of my head just on the paper. And what I was going to say is the third part of Solo Leveling. Maybe it will be the last video about it, because in the end there goes the huge fight against the monarchs, and then these 20 chapters when Sun Jinwoo rewinded back all the story when only he fought against these monarchs somewhere in the parallel reality for 27 years, and then he returned back. Well, actually, this is the end of the original manhwa. Then he returned back as 10 years or something, 10 years student. And then he met this, 13 years student, and then he met 14th. And then he met this girl, Mrs. Cha, who was 13 years old as well. And then there were 20 appendices, I don't know, about the way he lived there. He used his shadows to fight against the crime. Then he changed his appearance to age properly. Then he met this girl at the university, being the runner. Then he showed he gave the director this elixir. I don't know, elixir. Appendices. So elixir, and the director lived for more 10 years. He found a girl, and then he showed everyone, most of them, even the head of the civilians team from the past real life, what happened when they were the hunters. Then he had a child, a son, with this girl, and his son possessed his abilities from the start, so he locked them until he would become quite ready for them. And later, when his son became 16 or 17 maybe years old, he went regularly through these trainings sessions, where in the end he should fight his father, but he didn't know about that this kind of monster was his father, this boss was his father, and he always charged on and failed, and his father wanted him to learn to run away when the odds were not into his benefits, on his where the odds were not on his side. And his wife remembered this all, and he regularly fought some invasions to the earth from the parallel reality in the desert somewhere in the USA, and everything ended when they kind of celebrated the 16th, I think, anniversary. She went home, and he on his shadow dragon, met some new danger that appeared in the sky above South Korea. That's a good ending. It goes quite naturally with the style of the whole universe. Anyway, so this will be, I think, the last season of Solo Leveling, if they actually will do this stuff. Maybe they will stop at the end of this monarch fight, or maybe they'll just stop at the third season, if this third season will take place, if this plan takes place at all. Anyway, the second season will be confirmed, was confirmed, and as I said, it will end with the some island with the ants, with the insects. Okay. So the next part, which is the potential the material for the potential third season of this anime, is not very cool. I have several interesting things in it, but the story between these scenes is not very cool. So Sang Jin-woo, what? I think Sang Jin-woo returned home. Yeah. Oh, well, not home. He returned to his guild that he established, and he saw some gate, small gate, maybe B-level gate, and the head of the civilian team, director of the civilian team, asked him to clear this gate. Sang Jin-woo entered it, and the gate turned to be the red gate. He got into some jungle, then he defeated all the monsters in the jungle, and he defeated the boss, which was some kind of Centaurus, with some special appearance. Sang Jin-woo tortured it to get the information about the system, but system interfered, and the monster died without giving any information. For some reason, Sang Jin-woo did not turn it into his shadow soldier. So after that, he came to his guild, where his the rich guy, the son of that rich businessman, he was the vice president of the guild, and he fought his fights against the trolls over the internet, and this Miss Cha, as level hunter, the third woman, she came to join Sang Jin-woo's guild. He pushed her into the training, into the testing fight with his shadow. First, she fought with against Igris, and she defeated him, and then she fought against Beru, and Beru almost killed her. Anyway, Sang Jin-woo did not accept her as his guild member, because he wanted to be the only person who fights in his guild, because he needed as much experience as he could get by killing all the monsters. So then there are some actions, there are some scenes which are not very logical, because he already achieved a very high level, so I can't really know the sequence of these events, but I think I won't be too mistaken if I say that the fifth major guild in South Korea, which consisted only of A-level hunters as the high-rank hunters inside this guild, they wanted to raid some maybe A-level gate that appeared on their territory, but they could not enter A-level gate without having any S-hunter on their team, so they united with Sang Jin-woo because he could get the money, the experience from the stuff, and they could get some fame and what was that? Additional recognition by closing this huge gate. They contacted him. They wanted him to give 20% as S-level hunter, whom they wanted to recruit, to hire for this particular raid. He asked for 50-50 because he joined the raid as a guild, the 6th guild of South Korea. So their guild and the gate was in Busan. It was on the south, to the south, in the south part of South Korea. So they moved there, and he remained, I think, in Seoul, and he used his shadow exchange and got there just when the time was appropriate. So this is the well, first of all, the fighting between this Miss Cha and Igris and then Beru really is not interesting for me. I read it for the first time, but when I just scroll through it, it's really not cool for me. It's not what I like. But this particular raid is really cool because there are lots of jokes, and there is this thing when there were two parallel gates. The first one was a level gate in Busan, and the second one was maybe C level gate or something in maybe C level gate, maybe B level gate, inside the school where his sister learned, not taught, where his sister studied. Some students checked the classroom that was closed during the whole semester, and at this moment the break of the gate occurred, and high orcs got out. They killed all the students who didn't escape, and they got to the classroom where Sang Jin-woo's sister was with her friend, who was E-level E-rank hunter, that girl with whom he fought ice elves. So the orcs perceived the manner that came from her, and they almost killed her, but then three high orcs appeared who were the bodyguards of that shaman, about which I told in last video Yeah, Sun Jin-woo used the command touch telekinesis, and he hit the fourth warrior to the floor, to the wall, back to the floor, to the wall, to the ceiling, and the fourth warrior remained there inside the ceiling. So Sun Jin-woo did not summon him, and there were only 3 high orcs, but they were quite a bodyguards. So they successfully killed the first 3 orcs that came out of this gate break. And Sun Jin-woo in Busan had the feeling through his soldiers that his sister was in danger. He could not use his shadow exchange teleportation because he just teleported to Busan, and it was about 2 hours to make the next teleportation. So he summoned Beru and 20 ants, and he left Beru instead of himself, and he charged out of this dungeon, jumped on the dragon, and flew to his sister as fast as possible. When he ran out of the dungeon, the undead, the skeletons, the undead who were in this dungeon, they kneeled before him because he was their king. And then there was one of the funniest moments, one of the funniest things, maybe to write. How can I say this? From this moment to the end of the manhwa, this will be the last, maybe funny thing, almost the last. When this the 5th major guild communicated with Beru, when ants killed lots of vampires, and they just ate them. And one of these mages from the guild, he wanted to get back the corpse of the vampire, because the vampires were quite vampires were quite expensive. They cost a lot to be sold. So and this ant scratched or cut the shoulder of this mage. For this, the Beru this general ant, insect ant, he scolded this insect who cut the mage, and Beru used his healing skills just to heal the mage. And mage was surprised that Beru, the summoned beast, was better at healing than the mage itself. Beru got the magic abilities when he cut off the head of S-level hunter, who was the healer at that island. That's why he possessed this ability, and when he was killed and returned as the shadow, he could use these healing abilities. So this was the funny thing, and later the army of ants moved forward, and the guild just followed them. In the end, they got into the hall where the boss was. The boss was the Arch Lich, and there were 10 Death Knights, who were his bodyguards. And the members of the guild exchanged the information that last time the Arch Lich destroyed the whole guild in China, and then he caused the gate break, but the consequences were annihilated or cleaned by Li Chun something, the best hunter in China. So they were afraid that they could not kill this Archlich boss on themselves, and all the dead who were not killed by who were not eaten by the ants, they resurrected. So the mage who was the killer, the mage, he blocked the door for 5 minutes from all these resurrected monsters and dead. But then Beru came. There was the dialogue between them when Lich said why the king's personal army came to attack us. Beru answered that because the king chose us, not you. The Archlich wanted to talk to the king himself, and Beru just killed him with one punch, saying that the Archlich was talking too much for someone who was about to die. And the members of the guild were impressed that the summoned beast killed the Archlich with one hit, and with that army, San Jinwu could just send all his minions inside the gate without going in by himself. Yeah, and in parallel, in Seoul, Korea, in that school, the boss of High Orcs got out of the gate, and he, with his army, they destroyed the Shadow Warriors, because while the warriors regenerated, they could not do anything. So the orcs just killed them all the time, and the orcs could not do anything. And this boss orc almost killed his sister, but then he felt the presence, and San Jinwu came. He saved the rest of the students. They were only 10 students left, together with his sister and his sister's friend. And he personally killed all the orcs, and this boss, trying to get out of him some more information. After that, he assigned Beru to protect his sister personally, and to protect his sister personally. And his army was consisted of Igris, this bear, and a tank, Shadow. Yeah, because Beru was assigned very important task, and Beru watched Korean K-dramas while he watched over her sister, and he liked historical K-dramas most, and he learned, or maybe the most, or just most, and he learned lots of vocabulary, how to address his kin in this polite manner from the historical perspective. Anyway, I think this is the last most interesting thing in the rest of the manhwa, and then it's just interesting to read the way I'm interested in Harry Potter plot. But I can say that after that incident with his sister's school. Yeah, before that, he was contacted by Americans who wanted to get him to his side the same way they got as level hunter from Korea before. They had this Madame Selner who could enhance the hunter ability up to 30%, and because as hunter was quite strong by himself, adding 30% more made him almost invincible. But when Madame Selner touched Sang Jin-woo, she saw that inside him was something like the darkness that looked at him. Yeah, she kind of identified him as the brilliance of light or something, and she said that he had no limit to his power, so she could not offer him anything. But in any case, Americans could easily took him to their side because he wanted to enter the gate with his army on his own, and there was the restriction about 10 hunters to enter the gate. So the head of the civilian team asked the board members to do the exception for Sang Jin-woo. Otherwise, he could leave South Korea for the USA, and then no one could save them if the S-class gate will appear on Korean grounds. So they gave him the permission, but first one of the relatives of this rich boy came. She was the sister, she was the celebrity, maybe she was his cousin, maybe she was his sister, she was the celebrity, and he asked her to join because with her as the third founding member of the guild, they could establish finally this guild. After that, he entered the first gate, the gate of, I think, A-level class, as the guild by his own, and the captain of the civilian team came with him to supervise how he can handle all this stuff. And he saw as all his monsters, except for all his soldiers, except for Beru, just destroyed all the monsters, and the Naga boss was killed by Sang Jin-woo himself because he didn't want to lost his touch of the battle. So in the end, the captain was overwhelmed. He described this not just like the raid, but like the massacre, and it was really an interesting, at least dialogue in this, in this rest of the manhwa, and the director of the civilian team believed that Sang Jin-woo was not just a one-man strike squad, but he was one-man guild in and of himself. So he believed that the tides would change soon in the world against the monsters, and then the next arc started when first Sang Jin-woo entered the double dungeon because the dungeon called for him. He fought against all these knights, then against this huge statue, and then the architect, the statue with the wings, showed him the lore behind all this stuff, that some creatures killed supreme being, and then this all stuff appeared, and he was a perfect vessel for the monarch of the shadow to return. But for some reason he successfully fought against this monarch, and he returned as San Jinwoo with the power of the monarch on his own. So he decided whom to fight and whom to join. And at this moment, the major guild with 2S hunters came, and a civilian team came, and they fought against this statue with the wings, and the 20 hunters were killed. But the girl, Mrs. Cha, her kind of calls reached to the consciousness of San Jinwoo, and he returned, and as he back, and he killed this statue with the wings. And in parallel in Japan, a S-level gate appeared, and there was a dungeon break while he was unconscious after fighting in the double dungeon. Then he was invited to fight against the huge giant who guarded this gate. Yeah. And there was an interesting description how he fought. He used all his shadow army to find the weak spot of this giant. Then he with Beru came, and they killed. Or maybe he was alone, or maybe he was with Beru, and they both killed this giant. And then he entered the gate. There he found some giant, maybe in the chains. He said there was the monarch of the giants. He wanted San Jinwoo to free him from the chains. San Jinwoo almost freed him, but then he realized that this monarch was an enemy, and he killed him. He thought that he could not kill him after freeing him. Yeah. Then there was the conference in America where all hunters came, and where the national hunter where S-level hunter, that brother of killed C-level hunter, kidnapped this rich guy who was the vice president of San Jinwoo's guild. Well, he almost killed this rich guy. Then San Jinwoo came, and he fought against S-level hunter. Then national level hunter came, because S-level hunter was in his guild, and San Jinwoo successfully fought against national level hunter and defeated him. Then he killed S-level hunter and arose him, and he took him as his shadow soldier. He saved the rich guy. Beru cured him, healed him in America, while San Jinwoo returned to Korea and watched over his mother and his sister. And after that, I think this last arc started. Last arc, when he fought against different monarchs, when his father returned, and so on. So this is all about the soul leveling. I don't think that I will be able to reread this stuff in the end, and so that I could retell it. So for now, that's the end of all this stuff with solo leveling for me, and I think this is the end or for this video 75 for today.